This is Women Rise to Lead, Episode 6, International Women's Day. Are you seeking inspiration, insightful tips, and weekly steps to be in action? Welcome to your podcast, Women Rise to Lead. I am your host, Patricia Lagopatis. Even though I was an extremely shy girl, I became an entrepreneur, advisor, and public speaker. I never thought I could have the confidence and courage to show up, speak up, and build a business living my aspired lifestyle. After many attempts and lessons learned, I'm the entrepreneur and leader I always dreamed of becoming. This weekly podcast will empower and encourage ambitious and aspiring women in business to move forward and achieve a new level of leadership, a level that honors who you are. I love to uplift women so they can own their worth and be the entrepreneur leader they were born to be. Because we, as women, can inspire the female leaders of tomorrow by showing up as our amazing selves. So, let's keep shining. Welcome to today's episode dedicated to March 8th, International Women's Day. This episode will be a few minutes longer than usual. Let us celebrate International Women's Day, a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. International Women's Day celebrates women's achievements, raises awareness about women's equality, women's rights, and more. The theme for this year, 2022, is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. The beginnings of International Women's Day trace back to the early 20th century, emerging from the activities of labor movements in North America and Europe, and reflecting a growing movement for women to participate equally in society. We can see movements in New York City on March 8, 1857, when female textile workers marched in protest of unfair working conditions and unequal rights for women. It was one of the first organized strikes by working women, during which they called for a shorter workday and decent wages. In 1869, the National Women's Suffrage Association was founded by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton to advocate for women's rights. In 1908, 15,000 women marched through New York demanding shorter working hours, better pay, and the right to vote. A year later, the Socialist Party of America declared the first National Women's Day. In 1910, an international conference of working women was held in Copenhagen. A woman named Clara Zetkin, leader of the Women's Office for the Social Democratic Party in Germany, tabled the idea of an International Women's Day. She proposed that every year in every country there should be a celebration on the same day, a Women's Day, press for their demands. Following the decision agreed at Copenhagen in Denmark, in 1911, International Women's Day was honored the first time in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland on March 19, marked by over 1 million people. In Austria, Hungary alone, there were 300 demonstrations. The United Nations recognized 1975 as International Women's Year and began celebrating International Women's Day on March the 8th, later adopting a resolution designating March 8th as International Women's Day. Today, International Women's Day is celebrated around the world. In many countries, it is a national holiday. It has grown to become a global day of recognition of women's achievements and a call to action to support women's rights and advance gender equality. The centenary celebration was in 2011, so this year we're celebrating the 111th. Even with an increase in women being successful role models, more women in the corporate boardrooms, greater equality in legislative rights, women are still not paid equally compared to men, nor are they present in equal numbers in business or politics. In general, women's education, health, and violence is worse than that of men. Yes, there have been many improvements, and we've come a long way. However, we still have a long way to go. So we also see amazing women in so many industries as leaders, professionals, entrepreneurs, scientists, engineers, doctors, and so many more careers that today women have real choices. We need to continue to stand up for our values, stand up for who we are. And as the theme states this year, gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, to give the young girls a better future. Let us celebrate and honor some of these past women and their achievements that have paved the way for all of us, and be inspired to continue the work that we do as women as we continue to rise to lead. Here are some of the amazing women that have left their mark. Katherine Johnson, mathematician and NASA employee. Katherine Johnson's calculations were vital to pulling off the Apollo 11 mission that allowed Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to be the first men to land on the moon. Because she was a Black woman, her work went unrecognized for decades. The 101-year-old, who passed away on February 24, 2020, has since been given many awards. You can see her story in the Oscar-nominated film Hidden Figures. Highly recommend that film. Next, Susan B. Anthony. 2018 marked the 100th anniversary of many women gaining the right to vote in the United States, and the 200th birthday of one of the women who made it possible, Susan B. Anthony, born in Massachusetts in 1820. She was a lifelong activist on behalf of women's rights. Together with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, she founded the American Equal Rights Association in 1866 and traveled the country advocating for voting rights. Virginia Apgar. In 1937, she became the first female board-certified anesthesiologist and the first woman to achieve the rank of professor at the College of Physicians and Surgeons, where she was the first professor of anesthesiology. In 1952, she presented a 5-step system for assessing the condition of newborn babies within a minute of birth and periodically after that. The Apgar test soon spread around the world, and today every baby born in a modern hospital anywhere in the world is looked at first through the eyes of Dr. Virginia Apgar. Jane Austen completed just 6 novels before she died at the age of 41 in 1817, yet she managed to change the course of literature. Even 2 centuries after her death, she is famous for her stories, both through her books and the numerous adaptations that have been created for film, television, and the stage. Sarah Breedlove, otherwise known as Madam C.J. Walker. In 1888, a 20-year-old widow named Sarah McWilliams, born Breedlove, moved from Mississippi to St. Louis, Missouri, and got a job as a washerwoman, earning about $1.50 a day to support herself and her daughter. By the early 1900s, she had developed her own line of hair care products for African American women and was selling them door to door. She married Charles Joseph Walker and was going by Madam C.J. Walker. She expanded her business to the Caribbean and Central America, opened a beauty school, and had more than 25,000 salespeople in her employ. She is generally regarded as the first self-made female millionaire, and she remains one of America's greatest examples of entrepreneurship to this day. Caresse Crosby. An inspired 19-year-old Caresse Crosby, born Mary Phelps Jacobs, invented a brand new kind of booby trap from 2 silk handkerchiefs and some ribbon. She called it a brassière, patented it in 1914, and sold that patent to Warner Brothers Corset Company before turning her attention to publishing and writing. Marie Curie. Polish scientist Marie Curie won a couple of Nobel Prizes, paved the way for female scientists who came after her, including her daughter Irene, who also won a Nobel Prize with her husband. In 1903, Curie was the first woman to ever win a Nobel Prize in physics for her work in radioactivity, and then won in 1911 a Nobel Prize in chemistry for discovering and studying the elements radium and polonium, which made her the first and only person, not just a woman, but a person, to ever win Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. Sandra Day O'Connor. She was appointed by President Ronald Reagan in 1981. Sandra Day O'Connor was the first woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. Amelia Earhart. She became known as the first female pilot to cross the Atlantic. Earhart went on to set many aviation records, becoming the first woman to fly alone at 14,000 feet, the first woman to complete a solo, non-stop transcontinental flight, and the first woman to receive the Distinguished Flying Cross. Earhart, an inspiration and advocate for female pilots. Anne Frank. In 1942, 13-year-old Anne Frank went into hiding with her parents and sister in an Amsterdam building that her father, Otto, had rented for his company. While being there, Anne bared her soul within the pages of a diary that would live on long after she herself was gone. The family was discovered and imprisoned in concentration camps in 1944, and her father was the only one who survived. He published her diary, which made Anne the most well-known Holocaust victim of all time. She represents the millions of other victims whose stories were never told. Juliette Gordon Low. In 1911, when Juliette Gordon Low met Sir Robert Baden-Powell, the founder of the Boy Scouts, she immediately began wondering why there wasn't any equivalent organization for American girls. Within a year, she had founded the Girl Scouts, opening its doors to young women. Millions of girls learned to be leaders by following in Low's footsteps. Ruth Handler. Her company, Mattel, was an early success. The toy manufacturer made millions marketing toy pianos and music boxes. In 1959, with the introduction of Barbie, that secured Handler's legacy. Named after her daughter, she also had a son named Ken. Barbie made Handler and her husband, Elliot, rich. Margaret E. Knight. Margaret E. Knight, the 19th century inventor, gave us the paper bag. The self-taught engineer came up with numerous technological advances during her lifetime, patenting more than 20 ideas throughout her career. Knight built a machine that could cut and fold paper into bags automatically, transforming flat-bottomed paper bags into a cheap, efficient product for daily use. She patented the machine in 1871, changing lunches and grocery runs forever. Stephanie Kwolek, a woman who figured out how to stop bullets to save lives. In 1965, Stephanie Kwolek was working as a chemist for DuPont when she struck upon a formula for synthetic fiber made of polyamides that looked peculiar in liquid crystalline form, but could be spun into an ultra-strong material. The discovery led to Kevlar, which is 5 times stronger than steel and able to stop a bullet. The armor has saved countless lives. And the last woman I will share today is Laskarina Bouboulina, a Greek naval commander, a heroine of the Greek War of Independence in 1821. She was considered the first woman to attain the rank of admiral. She joined the Filiki Eteria secret society, which sought to achieve Greek independence from the Ottoman Empire, being among the few women to do so. Following the outbreak of the Greek War of Independence, she commanded a fleet of Spetsiot ships which contributed to several campaigns, such as the siege of Nafplion. And there you have a taste of some of the extraordinary women that lived prior to our time and left such a legendary history for us to admire and get inspired by. Our theme today is International Women's Day. This week's actionable step that I propose is acknowledge women this week for their achievements, big or small. It will be an honoring gift for them. Remember to also acknowledge yourself. Also, if you want to share your weekly actionable step progress, please do so on my professional Facebook page, Patricia Lagoparis, Entrepreneur Advisor and Speaker, where I and other women would love to connect with you. And finally, what if we all celebrated the contributions we make to our friends, our family, our community, our country, and the world? What an inspiring world that would be. Until next week, acknowledge women for their achievements, including yourself. Happy International Women's Day. Have a great week being the amazing woman that you are. Thank you for joining me in today's episode of Women Rise to Lead. If you enjoyed it and found it valuable, please share it with others and subscribe to the podcast or for my weekly newsletter found on my website, patricialagoparis.com, so you can automatically get my new weekly podcast episodes. I'd love to hear from you personally, and I'd be grateful if you can leave me a review. You're welcome to share your progress or comments by joining the conversations on my social platforms of Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Women Rise to Lead podcast honors who you are as women entrepreneurs and leaders and is filled with inspiration, insightful tips, and actionable steps to keep you moving forward. And remember, every action you take will bring you one step closer to your dream.